In Florence, the Platonic Academy is reformed and this Institute of Learning comes about. Now we know that Leonardo da Vinci is not allowed to enter this academy.
And it allows us to have an image of Christ.
Legends about a miraculous image of
touched the face of Christ and then bore a miraculous image.
For more than 5 centuries, Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece, The Last Supper, has been admired, studied, and misunderstood. Because hidden beneath its fading pigments isn't just symbolism or artistic genius, it's something far more unsettling. Not sketches, not corrections, but words, entire sentences, embedded so deeply into the layers of paint that no human eye was ever meant to find them. Only now, with the help of advanced AI scanning technology, researchers have uncovered what lies beneath the surface, and what they found isn't just a hidden detail, it's a message, intentional, structured, and shockingly precise, radiating from the figure of Jesus, stretching across every disciple. This concealed text forms a pattern, one that suggests Leonardo wasn't just painting a biblical moment. He was encoding a truth so dangerous, so controversial, that revealing it in 1497 could have meant execution. This discovery doesn't just rewrite a chapter of art history, it completely transforms what the Last Supper really is. And once you see what's been hidden all along, you won't be able to unsee it. Subscribe now, because what you're about to uncover next will change everything. The man who concealed everything. Leonardo da Vinci never truly trusted the world with what he knew. And that isn't speculation. It's documented reality. Thousands of pages from his personal notebooks still survive today, and most are written in reverse, a mirrored script that only reveals itself when viewed through reflection. For centuries, scholars have debated whether this was simply a left-handed habit or a deliberate attempt to hide his thoughts. But the truth goes deeper. His writings weren't just reversed. They were filled with cryptic abbreviations, invented shorthand, and complex sketches layered with hidden geometry that researchers are still trying to decode even after 500 years. This wasn't accidental. Leonardo didn't just record ideas, he concealed them, embedding them in ways that only the right mind or the right technology could uncover. And he had every reason to be cautious. He lived in a time when the Catholic Church held overwhelming power over knowledge, belief, and expression. Questioning accepted truths wasn't just controversial, it could be deadly. Years later, Galileo Galilei would be placed under house arrest for challenging the nature of the universe, and Giordano Bruno would be executed for similar ideas. Leonardo, already seen as unconventional and relentlessly curious, understood the risks of speaking too openly. So instead of saying everything out loud, he hid his ideas in symbols, in codes, and ultimately in his art. When he began painting The Last Supper in 1495, he made a decision that puzzled those around him. Rather than using the traditional fresco method of painting onto wet plaster, he experimented with oil and tempera on dry plaster. This gave him richer detail and greater control, but it came at a cost. The painting began to deteriorate within decades, flaking and fading far sooner than expected. For years, historians dismissed this as a failed experiment. But what many overlook is that this technique allowed Leonardo to build multiple layers of paint, layers that could hide details beneath the surface in a way true fresco never could. Whether intentional or not has always been debated, but in light of modern possibilities, that question feels more important than ever. For over 5 centuries, The Last Supper remained on the refectory wall in Milan, studied, restored, and admired by countless experts. Monks dined beneath it, restorers spent decades preserving it, and scholars analyzed every visible detail. Yet no one ever discovered what might lie hidden beneath. Not until technology stepped in. Advanced imaging techniques, including infrared reflectography and X-ray analysis, used during major restorations between 1978 and 1999, revealed underdrawings and changes Leonardo made during the painting process. Later, ultra-high-resolution scans captured the mural in billions of pixels, allowing details to be examined at an unprecedented level. But what if that was only the beginning? What if a modern AI trained specifically to recognize Leonardo's mirror writing and coded systems was used to analyze those scans, not just to identify brushstrokes or sketches, but to search for patterns, for structure, for language? This is the idea behind a speculative yet scientifically grounded concept known as Da Vinci Decoded. In this scenario, hyperspectral scan data is fed into a neural network trained on Leonardo's unique style of writing and symbolism. For days, nothing unusual appears, just noise, damage, and the expected signs of aging. But then, on the 19th day, the system detects something different. A faint cluster of markings appears in the dark area behind the figure of Jesus. Not cracks, not random decay, something structured. The AI assigns a 67% probability that these markings are intentional script rather than natural deterioration. The number flashes on the screen, and the room falls silent. Dr. Rossi studies it carefully before calling in Marco Ferretti, the team's senior imaging expert. He takes one look and dismisses it as mineral residue, something he's seen countless times in aged plaster. To him, it means nothing, but Rossi isn't convinced. She compares the markings to samples of Leonardo's mirror script, and the similarities are hard to ignore. The curves, the spacing, the repetition. Patterns like that don't form randomly. Ferretti pushes back, insisting it's a case of confirmation bias, seeing meaning where none exists. The tension rises as the team divides. Some believe it's nothing more than centuries-old damage being misinterpreted, while others feel they may be standing on the edge of a discovery that could redefine art history itself. But despite their disagreement, they all reach the same conclusion. Whatever this is, it cannot be ignored. Before anyone said a word publicly, they knew one thing. They needed more proof. So over the next few weeks, the AI kept working, scanning deeper into the painting. It moved through the darkest zones, under the table, inside the stone arches, within the heavy folds of the disciples' robes. And that's when things got strange. The same kinds of markings kept showing up again and again, not scattered randomly, not spread everywhere, but appearing in very specific spots, always in the shadows, always in the parts of the painting people rarely examine, the exact places where hidden writing could survive, untouched by restoration, invisible to the human eye. As the system continued, its confidence scores began rising. 71%, 78%, 83%. Individual letters started to take shape, reversed characters, matching the exact mirror writing style Leonardo was known for. The AI compared them to verified samples of his handwriting, and the matches kept getting stronger. Then actual words began to emerge from the noise. Umbra, shadow. Verità, truth. Tradimento, betrayal. At that point, Ferretti stopped pushing back. He didn't admit he believed it, but he went quiet. And coming from the most outspoken skeptic in the room, that silence said everything Rossi needed to hear. This wasn't mineral staining. This was Leonardo's handwriting, hidden beneath one of the most famous paintings ever created. Words that were never meant to be seen. And this is where everything shifted, from discovery to something far more explosive. Because the AI didn't just uncover isolated words. As it processed more sections, the fragments started linking together. Short phrases formed, then longer ones. And here's the unbelievable part. They weren't randomly placed. The system detected a pattern, a spiral. It began near Jesus' right hand and expanded outward, moving across each disciple one by one. The structure followed proportions aligned with the golden ratio, the same mathematical principle Leonardo used obsessively in his work. These messages weren't just hidden in the painting, they were built into it. The first complete phrase appeared on the wall behind Jesus. Translated from Leonardo's old Florentine dialect, it read, "All faith fades when light reveals the hand of man." Rossi read it out loud. No one reacted at first. It took a moment to sink in, because that line suggested something dangerous, that what people see as divine might actually be human-made, that faith itself could unravel under scrutiny, and in a painting that represents one of Christianity's most sacred moments. That idea hit hard. Still, it was just one sentence. It could have been anything. A stray thought. Maybe even an accident. But then a second phrase appeared near Judas. "He who eats with truth will not betray himself." Then a third, beneath Peter. "Strength without understanding is blind." And near Thomas, the disciple known for doubt. "To question is not sin, but the path to clarity." Each line connected directly to a specific figure. Each one reshaped their identity, not through faith, but through logic, reflection, and skepticism. But this wasn't a simple attack on religion. If anything, it felt like an invitation, a challenge, a push to think deeper instead of blindly believing. Leonardo wasn't rejecting faith, he was redefining it. And here's what makes it even more shocking. The idea that human reason could stand beside or even above authority wouldn't become mainstream in Europe until the Enlightenment, more than 250 years later. Leonardo wasn't just ahead of his time, he was thinking in a completely different era. Rossi's hands were shaking, not from fear, but from pure adrenaline mixed with disbelief. She had spent 22 years studying his work, writing papers, giving lectures, arguing that his art held deeper layers no one had fully uncovered. And for years, people dismissed her, called her ideas romantic, speculative. One review back in 2016 even labeled her theory as imaginative, but lacking evidence. She kept that rejection pinned above her desk for 8 years. And now, at 2:30 in the morning, staring at a glowing screen, that evidence was finally appearing, letter by letter. This wasn't just a discovery anymore. This was the moment her entire career stood on the edge, either proven right or completely destroyed. Then the AI revealed something that changed everything in the room. In the lower right section of the mural, buried beneath layers of paint, near the disciples' feet, a longer passage came together. "Those who hold power will bury truth beneath stone until the eyes of the future uncover it." That wasn't philosophy anymore. That was an accusation. It pointed directly at institutions, at the idea of knowledge being hidden, suppressed, protected. And it didn't feel like it was written for Leonardo's time. It felt like it was written for us. Ferretti, who hadn't said much in days, finally spoke. He knew, he said quietly. He knew someone would find this. He was writing to the future. And then came the deepest layer of all. Hidden beneath the original pigment of Jesus' robe, so faint It required maximum resolution, hyperspectral imaging to even detect. It revealed one final line. Truth belongs not to saints, but to those who seek it in silence. When the AI finally assembled every recovered phrase following that spiral from the center outward, it formed a single, unified message. Faith without reason is the sleep of truth, and those who wake shall see what was forbidden. Rossi didn't freeze, she didn't stare. She dropped her head into her hands and laughed. Not out of humor, but from the sheer weight of what it meant. A sharp, breathless, almost unhinged laugh. Because she understood. She understood exactly what they had found. And more importantly, she understood what would happen when the world found out. Because this is the moment everything changes. And when we say everything changes, this is what that actually means. Because the title of this video made a promise. And this is where that promise begins to be fulfilled, if these findings are proven real. To be absolutely clear, the first and most important step would be independent verification. Nothing moves forward without that. But if these findings hold up, the consequences wouldn't stay confined to one field. They would spread everywhere at once. In the world of art history, it would completely change how the Last Supper is understood. It wouldn't just be a devotional masterpiece anymore. It would be something far more complex, a dual-layered creation. On the surface, a religious commission, fulfilling the expectations of the church. Beneath that, a quiet act of intellectual defiance. And if Leonardo embedded hidden text here, then the obvious question follows. Did he do it elsewhere? In the Mona Lisa? In the Adoration of the Magi? In the unfinished St. Jerome? Suddenly, every Leonardo painting across every museum on Earth would demand re-examination, advanced scans, fresh analysis, a complete reassessment of his entire body of work. For religious scholarship, the implications cut even deeper. One of Christianity's most powerful visual symbols, the image billions connect with the final moments of Jesus, would carry a concealed message questioning institutional faith, written by the artist himself. That doesn't erase the painting's spiritual impact, but it complicates it in a way that can't be ignored. The Last Supper would no longer stand as a simple expression of devotion. It would become something debated, something contested, a document not just of faith, but of independent thought. It would also force historians to rethink timelines, ideas we associate with the Enlightenment. Reason, skepticism, questioning authority would suddenly appear more than 2 centuries earlier. Leonardo wouldn't just be remembered as a brilliant Renaissance artist, he would be seen as a hidden philosopher, someone who used his art as a coded system, an encrypted language, to slip ideas past one of the most powerful censorship systems in Western history. That kind of shift doesn't stay small. Textbooks would have to change. Museum descriptions would need rewriting. Even the way we teach the Renaissance, as a period of artistic growth under church support, would have to confront a new possibility, that its greatest genius may have been quietly challenging the very institution that funded him. Honestly, it's hard to think of a more explosive claim ever made about a painting. And when the findings finally became public, first through a leaked preprint, then amplified by global media, the reaction was exactly as chaotic as Rossi expected. Within 48 hours, Professor James Whitfield, a Renaissance historian from Cambridge, appeared on the BBC, calling it the most significant reinterpretation of a major artwork since X-rays revealed hidden layers in Picasso's paintings. He pointed out that the spiral structure and its alignment with the golden ratio made random damage an extremely unlikely explanation. 3 days later, the Vatican responded. Their official statement, released through the Pontifical Council for Culture, acknowledged the technological breakthrough but urged caution, warning against drawing conclusions that might distort the spiritual meaning of sacred art. Behind the scenes, though, reports suggested the tone was far less calm. In Milan, just days after the news broke, around 300 people gathered outside Santa Maria delle Grazie. Some demanded the full scan data be released. Others held signs saying things like, "Leave the Last Supper in peace," and "Faith is not a data set." Meanwhile, in Florence, protests flared up outside the Uffizi Gallery. Demonstrators blocked the main entrance for hours, forcing visitors to reroute. Police eventually cleared the area, but images of officers standing between protesters and a Renaissance museum spread across the internet almost instantly. Online, things escalated even faster. The hashtag Da Vinci Decoded trended worldwide for nearly 2 weeks. Conspiracy theories exploded, some claiming Leonardo belonged to secret societies. Atheist voices pointed to the findings as proof that even history's greatest minds questioned organized religion. Religious commentators pushed back, arguing that speculative AI interpretations were being treated as unquestionable truth, which, as they noted, carried its own irony. And then there was Ferretti. The same man who started as the loudest skeptic became one of the project's strongest defenders. In an interview with La Repubblica, he said something that cut through all the noise. "People are afraid because they think this threatens faith. It doesn't. It shows that Leonardo believed truth and faith aren't enemies, but that truth should never be sacrificed to protect authority. That's not anti-religion. That's a moral position." To their credit, the team didn't hide anything. They released everything: raw scans, AI confidence levels, translations, for open peer review. Within weeks, independent teams from MIT, the University of Amsterdam, and Kyoto University reported that the markings didn't match natural plaster deterioration patterns. The argument didn't disappear, but it evolved. The question was no longer, is this real? It became, what does it mean? 6 weeks after the discovery, Elena Rossi did something she hadn't done in years. She went to Milan. She walked into the refectory of Santa Maria delle Grazie and stood face to face with the Last Supper. Not a digital version, not a scan. The real thing, faded, cracked, restored, and still somehow magnetic after more than 5 centuries. The room was quiet, almost sacred. A few tourists stood nearby, whispering, taking photos. They had no idea who she was, no idea what she had uncovered. Rossi fixed her gaze on the dark section of wall behind Jesus, the exact spot where thousands of kilometers away in a lab, an AI had pulled hidden writing from beneath layers of paint. From where she stood, there was nothing. Just shadows, just age, just a worn surface like any other ancient wall in Italy. And that's when it hit her. That was the whole point. Leonardo had made sure it stayed invisible, not just because it was dangerous, though it was, but because he believed something deeper, that one day the world would develop the tools, the vision, to uncover it. He wasn't painting for the Duke of Milan. He wasn't painting for the monks. He was painting for the future. Rossi turned to leave, then paused for one last look. The disciples sat frozen around the table. Jesus remained at the center, calm, composed, knowing. And somewhere beneath the surface, dozens of hidden phrases still waited in silence, just as they had for over 500 years, and maybe would for centuries more. The painting had revealed one secret, but standing there, staring at those worn and fragile walls, Rossi couldn't shake the feeling. It was still hiding others. That, even now, Leonardo wasn't finished speaking. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the next video on